Hey guys, Super Retrocade here. What I wanted to talk about today was I recently started getting into Neo Geo hardware, and what I have in front of me is a Consolized Neo Geo MVS unit made by, I'm not sure if it's like a company or if it's just one guy. I think it's more than one person because I've been talking to I've been corresponding through email with a lady named Mandy. But this is a consolized MVS made by Neotropolis. And what's pretty cool about this unit is it has component video output, and it has the AES ports that were on the home version of the console. And it's all in this tight packaging, and it has a Unibios 3.3 inside of it. And what the Unibios allows you to do is it allows you to switch between AES mode and MVS mode, and it allows you to do cheats. It allows you to change the region, so it's pretty cool. And kind of a history of this is Neo Geo, what they did back in the day, because Neo Geo went from like 1990 to like 2004, and what they did was, instead of having branded arcade cabinets like everyone else was doing, like that were branded to the specific game, they would have these red arcade cabinets that were just branded Neo Geo, and they would send out different games in these cartridges, these MVS cartridges, and the different games would just be mailed out, and then they would be put in the machine, and then they would just like change the marquee. Like the marquee would just come with it to advertise what game was in it. And it was kind of a cool thing, because people back in the day would get excited because they'd see Neo Geo machines that would have different games. You know, what game is it going to be this week when we go to the pizzeria or whatever. And I should preface this by saying I never had a Neo Geo before. I don't know if I've even played a Neo Geo arcade machine. So I'm kind of getting into this for the first time, which is pretty cool. So what Neo Geo ultimately did was they came out with what's called the Neo Geo AES, which was like $1,000 home system that came with like 2 full-blown arcade sticks that would connect through these AES style DB15 connectors. And then what they also did with the AES was they changed the cartridge connector. So there's 2 versions. There's the AES connectors and the MVS connectors. And with the AES games, you know, the connector's slightly different, even though it's identical hardware inside. So the AES games at the time, they retailed for like $200, $300. You know, they varied wildly in price. I mean, I'm sure there were some less expensive games, but there were some really expensive games too. So it ended up being like, you know, they pretty much priced out everyone. So the AES games are very rare. Actually, right now, you know, purchasing MVS style games is about 1/10 of the price of buying AES games. So a lot of people are consolizing MVS units like this. So what this essentially is this guy Neotropolis. Let me open this up once. Let me see here. I'm gonna put the camera down for a second while I open this, because I don't want to mess this thing up. So what Neotropolis does is he takes a arcade motherboard. So this is an MVS 1C motherboard, and this motherboard itself is what was actually in these arcade machines back in the day. And then what he did was he takes this RGB to component board and routes everything nicely out here. And then here is a board that allows you to do what's called the Unibios. And the Unibios allows you to modify what region and whether the system is in AES mode or MVS mode. it also allows you to do different cheats. Like there's a cheat engine that's pretty cool, and it's all in this nice little socket. So I've actually ordered the Unibios 4.0 from this other guy named Razul, and when that shows up, I can just pop this. I think it's called a pick. I can just pop this out and replace it with the new one. And then there's also a real-time clock battery in here. So I'm not sure exactly what it's used for. I don't know if it has to do with keeping high scores and stuff. And then, since it was originally in the arcade, it was all JAMA here. But what he's done is he's taken the JAMA ports and wired them up to AES controller ports. So I'm able to use any controllers or arcade sticks that are DB15, which is what the home AES system was. And then they just wired a power switch up here. You know, and there's some hot glue in here, but it's not excessive. It's very much just for like cable management and holding things securely. So I mean, this thing is incredibly well made, and it's pretty cool how, you know, they've fabricated their own, you know, Consolized shell here. Another thing that's cool is this power switch. It actually lights up to tell you when it's on, and that's something that's kind of interesting about the home system that SNK made, the AES system, is it never actually had like a power indicator on it. So Neotropolis, these typically retail for $700, and I know he has a couple on eBay right now, but I actually lucked out in that there was a seller from Chicago who had one of these, and I looked on eBay. They had the Consolized MVS from Neotropolis with the AC adapter, and they had this 161-in-1 MVS cartridge, and they were asking for like $650. So I was looking at it one night because I know how cool it is, you know, in principle, that it's real arcade hardware at home, but I'd never played one, so I was having a hard time dropping that much money on it. You know, because I'd been looking at Neotropolis's, you know, I'd been looking at this model from Neotropolis for a while, but, you know, $700, I wasn't willing to pay $700 or $650. It was just too expensive, even for how cool it is. But I went to work, and all of a sudden, I looked at the auction, or I looked at the listing on eBay again, and the guy had it marked down to $468. So this 161-in-1 cart, they generally go for $60 to $80. So let's say we take $80 off of the 468. So it's really like I paid like $380 for this thing, which is almost half price. So it's super cool that I was able to land it for that price. Another thing that I really liked about buying it used from this seller in Chicago was that they said that they had used it on different LCDs and stuff without issue. And kind of a common problem with superguns. So for those of you who don't know what a supergun is like when you take an arcade, when you generally take like an arcade motherboard, there's three things you got to overcome. One is you got to figure out how to connect controllers or arcade sticks. Another thing you got to do is you got to figure out how to handle the video output, and you have to figure out how to use a power, or what sort of power supply to power it. And the thing that's kind of been an issue is superguns. Superguns are typically a device that people use to plug, JAMA equipment like these motherboards into. And a lot of superguns, especially the inexpensive ones, like the ones you get on AliExpress and stuff, they have incorrect voltage levels on their video outputs. So they've actually been known for sending incorrect signals, and they'll either, you know, blow up something like your PVM or your OSSC, or they just won't work with them. So what I thought was pretty cool is that this guy had actually already used this one. So I didn't have to worry so much about the signals, because I figured, you know, since I was buying it used, this guy had already used it on different equipment, so it's probably okay, versus me just buying something off AliExpress and hoping that it doesn't destroy my expensive CRTs or my OSSC. So that was pretty cool about buying it used. So then the other thing that I had to do is I had to get a controller. So I bought 2 of these Neo Geo CD controllers, and what kind of happened was when the MVS or when the AES came out, it was super expensive. Like I was saying, it was like $1,000 for the system, and then the game cartridges, since these are like actually what was in the arcade, they were super expensive too. So the way that they tried to, you know, bring new life into it was they came out with another system called the Neo Geo CD, where it was the Neo Geo hardware, but instead of loading the games from these expensive cartridges, they'd load them from CDs. And when they came out with that system, instead of having the more expensive full-blown arcade sticks, they came out with these controllers. So these controllers actually have micro switches in them for the joystick, which is that clicking sound. And then it doesn't feel like the buttons have micro switches. But these came out for the Sega CD, for the Neo Geo CD system that came out after the AES. And I bought 2 of these to use on my MVS, my Consolized MVS, because this has the AES port. This has been modified from JAMA to the AES ports. And so far these controllers have been pretty cool. The only thing that's kind of weird about these controllers is they don't always detect like the diagonals properly, but for the most part they're actually kind of growing on me. And this nub is kind of like if you've had like a 3DS or a 2DS, it's that sort of style of nub, or even like on old like Anova ThinkPads where they have the little nub in the middle of the keyboard. It's kind of like that, but it's actually kind of growing on me. And then this 161-in-1 cartridge, this came with it, and I'll kind of show you here. A lot of people have been talking about this cartridge because it's actually a heck of a deal, because these games are traditionally so expensive, because it actually comes with like, it's a 161-in-1 cart, but it has like 20 really good, you know, like 20 of the best Neo Geo games on it. So for like $60 to $80, you're getting like 20 really good Neo Geo games, which when you buy them all individually, they're, you know, $50 to $1,000 each. So it's a big cost savings. Now, the cartridge doesn't run everything perfectly because they did different things to circumvent like copy protection stuff that was implemented in the Neo Geo. But from my experience so far, it really runs well. Like, it's definitely something that if you have a Neo Geo MVS, you should buy. And another element of it too is there's a flash card by Terra Onion for the Neo Geo, both the MVS and AES. And the thing with those flash cards is they're really expensive. They're like $400 to $600 depending on what model you buy. And since these are actual arcade games and very complex games, like visually mostly, they can have extremely long load times. You know, to load a game can be 3 minutes. So kind of like, you know, when you're buying a Consolized MVS, or if you're just buying an MVS for your existing supergun setup, the MVS is going to cost you a decent amount of money. So this is kind of like a good thing to get you up and going with like 20 of the best games in order to like tide you over until you can spend another 400 to 600 on the flash cart, So I'll just kind of fire it up and kind of show you what all it can do. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm playing on my Sony PVM 20M4U. And I'll just kind of power it off real quick and power it back on. Let you see the boot up screen. Oh, that's not been long enough. Yeah, so I'm set to Europe and arcade mode with the Unibios. So this is the 161 and 1 flash cart. So I'm just going to go down here and pick a game. So what I've been playing is spin. Let's see here. See, there's a lot of good games on here. The Sengoku 3 is supposed to be amazing. Spin Master is what I've been playing. Shock Troopers is amazing. Ninja Commando. I'm not sure if Baseball Stars is a really good game. What I'll kind of show you first though is if I turn it off and then turn it on with ABC hit on my controller, it'll let me into the Unibio settings, and then here I can select the region and stuff. So I'm going to set it to USA, and you can toggle between arcade mode and AES mode, so that's really AES and MVS mode. And there's differences between the modes, because from my understanding almost all of the cartridges contain both the AES mode and the MVS mode, and the big difference is the AES mode was meant for at home because it was for their official console. So like instead of feeding it quarters, you'll be able to pause the game and adjust the difficulty in some games, where the arcade one, the games will have a timer, or if you feed them quarters, you'll be able to get through it no matter what. You'll have infinite lives if you feed it quarters. So I'm going to do USA arcade mode, and then I'm just going to exit out. So I'm going to hit C, and that'll take me to my 161 and 1 cart. And as you can see, you've got a million King of Fighters on here. Strikers, Aero Fighters 2 is supposed to be a great game. A bunch of Metal Slugs. Samurai Showdown. There's a lot of amazing fighters on the Neo Geo, but I'm not big into fighters. I actually haven't played Street Hoops yet, but I'll show you Baseball Stars too. So I'm USA arcade mode. Turn up the sound a little bit. So right now I'm playing actual arcade hardware in the home on a Sony PVM. So I'm going to insert coin by hitting the select button. Do one player. And you can see the graphics are just crazy. Oh, are you kidding me? See, there's all kinds of ways of, there's all kinds of different controllers you can use. And like mine's set up for AES, so you can pad hack a bunch of different controllers to do DB15. So pretty much any arcade stick, if you know how to wire and solder yourself, you can turn it into a Neo Geo or you can turn it into a Neo Geo AES compatible unit. And I'm not sure what the configuration is, but since I have a Unibios, I can actually soft reset. See if I can figure it out. Oh. Maybe it's ABC. No. So I'll just turn it off and turn it back on. Not sure what the buttons are. So let's play let's play Sengoku 3. I've actually never played it. See, and I'm on Unibios 3.3, but I've ordered version 4 from Razul. So then I'll insert some credits. See, and this is supposed to be like a really good beat 'em up. Oh. Still figuring out my controls here. I think yeah, there. That's how you grab them. Did I jump? Oh. They're just awesome looking games though. How do I pick this up? Oh, maybe I don't. Well. Oh, there we go. You gotta actually grab them. Kind of the reason one of the reasons I really wanted this Neotropolis one was just to have the native component output. Because there's a lot of MVSs on like eBay for like $250 that will do RGB SCART. But then if you want to play on a flat screen or anything, I'd have to use like the OSSC or the FrameMeister. And I'm going for like an all component setup with a lot of HD retrovision stuff. So I really wanted this nice one that would be doing component. And it was just like an added perk that I was buying it used, because then I knew that it had been tested. Gosh, these guys are destroying me. Come on. I also ordered a couple SNES to AES adapters from Arcade Forge. So I'm kind of interested to see what it's like playing these with a SNES controller. And I'll try to make a video of that, because I found very little information online about these SNES adapters. I know Firebrand X and Retro RGB, they've kind of said that there's like audio issues using them, which I don't fully understand, because I don't know how like a controller adapter would mess with your audio. So when I get those, I'll make a video on these Super Nintendo controller adapters for the AES. So I'm hoping that that's a good way to go, because I have a ton of super nice Super Nintendo controllers. I actually have like 2 original Super Nintendo controllers that are brand new that I haven't even opened. So that would be like a good way for me to play Neo Geo. And I'm not sure how I get into, oh there it is. I guess I hit start and select at the same time. So then I can go into this cheat database. Infinite lives, invincibility, combo time. Oh, player 1, player 2. Yeah, so this is one of the things the Unibios does for you. So there must be like 2 more characters. Set. Let's do let's do invincibility and see if that works. So let's hit C. Let's see. So now I think when I get hit, it shouldn't do anything to my life meter. Let's see if I get hit here. Oh, they just like can hit me. So that's what the Unibios is doing right now. And I think I set it for unlimited time, so my time's sitting at, I don't know, my time just changed. So what did I turn on? Oh, I unlocked the characters. So let's do infinite time. Yeah, so now it's sitting at 60. I mean, so that's pretty cool too. Especially since a lot of these Neo Geo games are super hard. So that could be kind of cool, especially if you're playing a game like this and something like time is killing you all the time. Or even unlocking those characters. I'm kind of interested to see who those characters are. So let's just do a soft reboot here. So I think it's taking me back into the game and not the flashcards menu. Yeah, it's kind of interesting that winners don't use drugs thing. That only comes up if you have your region set to USA. So if I hit start, yeah, I don't see any more characters. Wonder, let's check it. Oh, now it's not on. I wonder if I'm too far. Let's do another soft reboot. And then I'll turn it on right away. before I get to that screen. Bayaki and Okuni. Yeah, there we go. I wonder how you typically unlock them. Maybe you gotta do something in the... Maybe you gotta do something on the AES version to unlock them. Well, that sucks if that's all of her distance. So that's the Neo Geo AES.
Powering off.
Well, I'm hoping to get Neo SD from Terra Onion, just so I can have all the games. But right now, this 161 in 1 card is pretty cool. There's definitely enough good games on it, and the glitches, I haven't found anything, at least to the untrained eye. Like, I've never played any of these games before, so there could be some sound that's slightly off or some text that's slightly off, but I haven't run into a single problem with this 161 in 1 card. And I know there's some mods you can do to it, and I've ordered the mods. It's like $5 worth of it's like I think it's 2 capacitors and like 1 IC, and I had to get like a fiberglass pen to take off some of the polish so I could get to the traces. But it was like $5 worth of stuff to do a mod to this cart in order to fix a couple. It's supposed to fix like a couple visual and audio problems with this 161 in 1 cart. So I'm probably gonna try to do that. But I haven't run into anything to the untrained eye using this 161 in 1 cart. It works amazingly well. So expect more. There'll probably be a couple more Neo Geo videos coming, and so far it's really cool. I think there's only like 160 games, but I mean, if you're into fighters, there's a million amazing fighters, and I'm not into fighters, but I found like a lot of sports games, some beat 'em ups, some good shmups. So there's definitely some cool games on this system. So this is Super Retrocade. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.